And we're coming in with our last keywords and concepts video for this chapter. Yay! I know you guys had a lot of videos to watch this week, so sorry about that. So we're ending up with different types of psychology. Obviously, this is not all the types of psychology. There are many, many more, but these are the ones I would like for you to focus on in this moment. So we start with biopsychology, which is just a fun word. And biopsychology explores specifically how our biology, so how our bodies, influence our behavior. So they're looking at things like hormones, neurotransmitters, all of that kind of things. We'll learn more about those in a couple of weeks. Then we also have, kind of relating to our last slide a little bit, cognitive psychology, which focuses on studying cognitions or thoughts, the stuff that's going on in your brain, and their relationship to our experiences and our actions. So we all kind of have two people in our heads at all times. You have your interior person, and then you have your person that you actually are. And they're kind of trying to connect those two folks, right? Who's the inner you with who's the you put out there. So those are the cognitive psychology folks, and they're very often looking at some of the things that make it hard for us to think. So these are also the folks who are going to study things like ADHD, so that's helpful. We move on to social psychology, and we're learning some social psychology this week with Stanley Milgram. Social psychology focuses on how we interact with and relate to each other. So all of this psychology is all well and good when it's individual, but it really comes home to roost when we're interacting with each other, right? That's where a lot of this stuff really gets interesting. So we'll get a little bit more into that this week, so that'll be fun. We also have health psychology, and that focuses on health is affected by the interaction of biological, psychological, and sociocultural factors. So they're looking at things like how your health, where you live, maybe how much money you make, things like that, how that's affecting your overall health, right? And then finally, we have clinical psychology, which is probably the most familiar kind. That focuses on the diagnosis and treatment of psychological disorders, right? These are the people you're going to go see if you're having problems. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, that kind of thing. Or if you have more serious problems, you're going to see a clinical psychologist who may refer you to a therapist or something. But that's the branch of clinical psychology. Basically, when it goes wrong, right? When we're having problems with our minds, we go see a clinical psychologist. So those are some types of psychology. Like I said, not all of them, just the ones we're focusing on now. And then I believe we get a little personality preview here. Now this is whole chapter coming up in a couple of weeks, but just a little preview because this stuff's fun. So personality psychology, which is a thing, focuses on patterns and thoughts and behaviors that make us each unique. It's literally trait psychology. So these are the people that figure out what makes different personalities and what makes us all unique, and if it can be changed and how it changes, and it's fascinating. We're going to get into a lot more of that in the future. And then our little personality preview here is that personality traits actually are relatively consistent throughout your lifetime. And we, at this point, have this 5-trait dimension that we're using to define and determine personality in the modern world. So you may be into some personality stuff that isn't scientific, shall we say. We'll talk about some more of those later when we get to this chapter. But for the moment, it's important that you understand what these 5 dimensions are. They're known as the Big Five or the 5-factor model in psychology, and these are the only legitimate way you can really go after personality within psychology. And the 5 areas are conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness, and extroversion. Like I said, we'll get more into this into the future, but just kind of a little preview of what's going on this term with this chapter. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.